Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be on the podcast tomorrow morning. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click on the notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, please drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves, and drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. My guest for this week is Elton Pullen, Senior Lecturer of Accounting at the University of the Western Cape, PhD candidate, and founder of an e-learning company. Elton, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Tooways. It's an honor and privilege to be here.
Let's jump straight into questions. Tell us your story.
Awesome.
Where do you come from? And maybe even outside of work, who is Elton Pullen?
Okay, awesome. So who's Elton Pullen right now? I'm a husband to my beautiful wife now of 10 years, Alexis. And yeah, we've been married for 10 years. We have two beautiful boys, 3 and 1, that keeps us busy and on our toes. So that's who I am outside of work. But of course, I'm always mindful when I work that they are my first priority. And my journey, well, I'm a Cape Townian, born and bred in Belhar, the United States of Belhar. Went to study at went to high school at the Settlers High School, not just Settlers, you must get it right, it's the Settlers High School in Bellville. And then I went to, I started at Stellenbosch, like yourself, Stellenbosch University, but I was a bit of a party animal back then. Some people that know me now might not believe you. I had to drop out, lost my bursary, all of those things. And then I joined UWC in 2000 and I joined as a second year student. I think it was 2004, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2004. And then I finished my degree and my honors at UWC. Yeah, and then I don't know if you need me to go on, but then eventually I went to do articles at PwC Stellenbosch, which was an awesome experience. Then I had a short stint as an audit manager, just so that they could pay my psycho fees. And then I became and then I was an FM as well for a short stint at a publishing company called Sun Media Stellenbosch. And then, ever since May 2012, I've been at UWC lecturing management accounting. And I've been loving it, and it's been just an awesome career. Never thought that I'd have such a great career in lecturing. I always knew I loved lecturing and teaching, but I didn't know that it would take off the way it has. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
Since 2012, that means you're going in almost on 10 years. So yes, that's
almost 10. Yeah.
So maybe why did you decide to go into academia? Because I mean, it seems a little bit like the road less traveled.
It does. I think firstly, I absolutely love people, absolutely love to impart. And, even though I don't know everything, I actually like to try and help. And I think I saw that from my parents. My parents are the most giving people. And my dad is a teacher, retired now, but he's a teacher. So I think teaching was sort of always in me. And so seeing him as a teacher and realizing, well, as a CA, I can actually become a teacher as well. That was quite eye-opening and make lecturing a possibility. And then at varsity, being able to be a tutor to help your peers was also sort of eye-opening. And then also, I loved your intro about there's more than one way to be successful. I think the traditional CA route was like you had to either be an auditor or climb the corporate ladder. I think what I saw at university was that lecturing is an alternative career. And I think I was quite impacted by my lecturers at the time at university, that just the time and the time they had for me and the one-on-one interaction. And that made me think, well, when I eventually qualify, I might consider lecturing as well. And then the flexibility does help, because lecturing is does allow you flexibility. So all of that kind of came together, and then when I did the auditing thing, I did the financial manager thing, and I realized the corporate space, at least not full time, is not for me. And then I was fortunate to keep close contact with my lecturers at UWC. And the minute the post opened up at UWC, they told me about it, and the next thing I knew, I didn't even tell them like, it must be auditing, or it must be tax. I just said, whatever post you have, I'll come. And then I ended up in math, and I'm so grateful for that, because I can't imagine lecturing anything else now. So and I think what helped me was that I joined academia very early on in my CA career. I think it becomes a lot more difficult when you join after 10 years of being in corporate, because it's a just financially it's a big change, because to go from a corporate salary to an academic salary might be a challenge. But I joined early on, so for me, I didn't have to make those decisions.
Okay.
I'm speaking a lot, but
No, please do.
yeah.
But a few months ago, I noticed that quite a few universities looking for accounting lecturers. There seems to be a lack
Yeah.
of supply of people wanting to go into academia. Why is that, and how can we fix that?
Sure. I've seen that as well. Well, probably something I was going to say at the end, but I mean, I'm also about to leave UWC, but we can chat about that at the end, perhaps. But I think there was a time when most newly qualified CAs didn't want to lecture, so there was quite a long period, and I think you have, let's say, the old guard. I'm by no means saying people are old, so if my colleagues are watching, I'm not saying you guys are old, but I think that you have the old guard that is leaving and they're retiring, and so that's obviously leaving quite a void, and so there's a lot of positions open, and then added to that, I think as what happens in, I guess, most in corporate as well, but probably more in universities, that the requirements to promote to the next level has become a lot more difficult than it was in the past. And so that leaves quite a big gap at certain, let's call it, promotion levels. So we have lecturer, senior lecturer, associate professor, and professor. And so you find that it's difficult to be an associate professor and a professor, but you still need feet on the ground. And so that means you need a lot more lecturers and senior lecturers. And that's why, so coupled with the old guard leaving and the fact that you need more feet on the ground to fill that void between lecturer and associate professor, and senior, full professor, I think that is contributing to why there's a lot more posts. And I think there's just a lot growing interest in the CA profession, I think, and that obviously brings with it more students. And yeah, we're just surprised how just increasingly every year people are still interested in becoming a CA, and just speaks a lot to the designation.
If anybody's got any questions for Elton, please add them to the comment section. We'll deal with all the questions towards the end. And I see somebody struggling with sound, so if anybody else can comment and see if anybody else is also having any issues. Let's talk UWC accounting. It seems to me that there's a bit of a branding problem. It doesn't seem to be people's first choice. Like, people push UCT and they push Stellenbosch. Yet every person that I've met that's come through the CTA program at UWC has always been top quality. So, how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult question, because I mean, we're in between. So you have UCT, who is close to Table Mountain, beautiful there, and then you have Stellenbosch, it's in the wineries, and then we're quite in the middle. So I think you are right. It's a branding problem, but also you got to remember UCT and Stellenbosch has been around for a lot longer. I think, I mean, Stellenbosch, I think, 100 years old, where I think UWC is maybe just over 50. So that is also contributing to it. And then the accounting department at UWC is also a lot younger than UCT and Stellenbosch. And so obviously, when you think those Stellenbosch, UCT is, a lot older, the people who then come out of those universities and end up in companies, the UCT candidates and the Stellenbosch candidates are quite entrenched in those companies, and so when they go out and market, they are, in a sense, looking for UWC and UCT, and maybe not intentionally, but that's just, when you come from a university, that's who you're going to try and punt. So it's not like they, prejudice in UWC, but I do think it's important for those of us who do come from UWC to have more of a voice. And I think we are seeing that, and I think that there, like you said, there are a lot more. There are a lot. Not a lot more, a lot of people from UWC that are making quite a lot of inroads in the industry. And we're grateful for platforms like this that you give us to be able to showcase UWC. But yeah, I think we definitely have
more
to
people on.
Yeah, yeah. I can give you some names. But I do think we have to be more intentional about the branding. That's definitely. I'm not gonna, try and cover that. I think, we do need to be more intentional about it.
Okay, great. I see you. I mean, you've also got a master's in financial management from UCT, and you're working on your doctorate at Stellenbosch. How was the experience of doing the master? I mean, your doctorate is in education, so not even in finance. Like, would you recommend? How was the experience, and would you recommend others doing the same or taking that same path?
Yeah. So I did the MCom finance at UCT, and it was sort of a natural enrolling for that master's because I became a math lecturer that I needed to do a master's in management accounting, so whether it was costing or finance. And at the time, there was just so many people that sort of advised me that the MCom finance at UCT was the most popular course to go and do to just advance your math technical knowledge. And yeah, it was a big change because as which is what I advocate for a lot now, is that the CA profession or the CA designation is great, but when we were studying, we were so aimed at passing an exam, which was the ITC, and at that time I wrote the PPE. But a master's and a PhD is aimed at advancing knowledge, and which is quite a so it's quite a change. So you have to write a thesis, and so that was quite a big change for me because I've always just had to study for a test and try and pass it, and you become good at it, right? I mean, you do enough past papers. You become good at passing tests, but now all of a sudden you have to make an argument for what you believe in. That's what thesis writing is about. So that was quite a challenge. The master's was the first year of my master's was okay because it was coursework and some project, but the second year became harder because there was a thesis component, but luckily it was a smaller component. But yeah, that was a big change, but a good change because it everywhere you go, you learn from from different situations, and I definitely learned a lot from that. And also because I started out at Stellenbosch, even though I failed, and I obviously finished up at UWC, but then I went to UCT. So what it also gave me is it's now the third university in Cape Town, so I got that perspective as well. What is it to be a UCT student as well, which was also awesome. So. And that I think that also grew me like just people dynamics because cultures are different at different universities. So I think that also fed into who I am today. That I had that different experience. And then the PhD. Just by the way, I'm not finished, everyone. I'm still in the latter stages. The PhD has just been challenging because just life stage. I mean, it's challenging because it's actually a full-time job, but I'm doing it on top of a full-time job. But also the life stage I'm at, married with 2 kids and trying to find time for it. Yeah, that's been challenging, but it's just the way it's transformed my thinking is just phenomenal. I can't put it into words, but it is transformative. So I started out the PhD because I want to, climb the academic ladder. But now I'm at the point where I'm just doing it for myself, like because I can see how it's just transformed my thinking. And because it's philosophy, which is probably maybe one thing I want to cover. So I'm doing a PhD in philosophy of education because I realized that I am out and out a teacher, and there are educational practices and things that we didn't get as when we were qualifying as CAs. I mean, you become a CA and automatically they tell you can lecture students, but actually we know very little about education, like what it means to educate, and the different people's learning styles and different people's philosophies about learning. So that's been quite quite eye opening. And I'm reading up on philosophers. I suppose most of the people on this chat can relate. At varsity when you were studying, I think at Stellenbosch it was BREC. So when you were a BREC student, and you heard someone was studying arts, you almost laughed at them. It's like, what do you do? I mean, like, like, do you even study? I'm like, it's Afrikaans mense gesê is konsert. Ja, it's hulle het gesê is konsertvakke wat jy leer. But now, now I'm realizing they actually got something that we didn't get. I mean, they were exposed to anthropology and, the way different people think, different traditions. And that has so much value for education. And that's what I'm doing now, learning about now and writing about now, which has just been, I can't put it into words, it's been phenomenal. But it's been quite a change. That's why I got no hair, because it's a lot of the stuff goes over my head. But yeah, it's been quite a journey, this PhD.
Okay, I mean, that gives people a good understanding if it's something that they're interested in pursuing.
Yeah.
I see your LinkedIn also says you're a founder of an e-learning company. Is that a side hustle? Is it a full-time thing? Because it seems like lots of people are going the side hustle way just to learn something new or try something different.
Yeah. It's very much a side hustle. So if my bosses are listening, it's a side hustle. So yeah, interesting thing. So the company is called Eli Accounting Trading Solutions. And something that's quite dear to me was in 2016, my wife and I had a stillbirth. So we lost our first baby, and the baby, thank you. And so his name was Eli. And so he passed away 37 weeks in the womb. So he passed away. And then, so as part of me dealing with the loss, was like, maybe I should start something that will make me, remember him somehow. Not that I would ever forget, but I thought, in honor of him, I think I remember when I wrote it down, it's like, I need to do something that's going to make him proud. So I started Eli Accounting Trading Solutions, and that year was that I'm passionate about teaching and accounting, and so it's to essentially teach accounting to non-financial experts, so your typical finance for non-financial managers, and so that's how it started out. It's still very much a side hustle, but so that was 2016, and since then I've been. A lot of it has been through Stellenbosch's executive development school. So I've taught employees from Woolworths, Engine, Tooways, Clicks, where they send their employees on a training, and they just need to understand some basic accounting skills. And we take it for granted as qualified CAs that everyone knows what an income statement is and a balance sheet is. So that was sort of my way of trying to start a so-called successful company on the side with the name Eli. And right now it's still very much a side hustle, but it's moved to an e-learning company because it's, I do it remotely now, and it's probably about, in total, in a year, I do about 10 to 12 days of gigs that, that's available just based on my schedule. So yeah, that's what it's about, and hopefully it will expand and grow. Need to come and have coffee with you to grow it, as put in my entrepreneurship hat. But for now, I think just given everything I'm busy with, I'm happy that it's where it is now.
Okay, so I mean, 10, 12, it's maybe once a month, but I mean, you're lecturing full time, you're doing this PhD full time, you're doing this side hustle. What advice do you have for someone who's thinking of doing things outside of or doing a PhD outside of their normal work and taking on other things? Do you have any advice for
them? I think so. A good friend of mine, she has this phrase. She says, we are all in becoming, and I think most CAs, look, we're always trying to remember when you were qualifying as a CA, there was always this, I have to do my undergrad, I have to do CTA, then write the 2 board exams. So there was always like this next thing, right? And so being able to grow is almost like innate in us, not just us as CAs or aspiring as CAs, but I think most of us have this need to grow. And I think it's, the advice I would have is, what are the areas you would like to grow in? And very often that's linked to the things that you are passionate about. Now I have this tension with passion, because you shouldn't follow everything that you're passionate about. I mean, you especially shouldn't tell a teenager they must follow their passions. But but I think your passions are a good indicator. So when you are passionate about something, it's a good indication about what you may be interested in. So when you realize I'm passionate about something, and it may be outside of the norm, I think that's usually a good indicator that you might want to explore. Um, and for me, the philosophy thing or the education thing was that I was passionate about helping people. And I'm passionate about understanding how different people think, and the fact that we can disagree but still move together. That I'm passionate about that. So I would say we all have this innate ability to grow, and maybe you want to just think about what are you passionate about, um, and then just read up about that further and just see where that can take you.
I mean, yeah. So maybe if I can add, if you find something you're passionate about, it feels less like work, so you're more likely to put more into it. Definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
as my last question, I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you the question I like asking everyone: is what is one piece of advice you'd give your younger self, considering that you gave us the story of the way you got through your career? What advice would you give your younger self?
It's a good question. I think, sure. If there's one piece of advice that I would give my younger self, I think it would to trust the fact that I can just be myself. I think that we find ourselves in different spaces and places, especially on the CA journey. Because I mean, I'm this kid from Belar. Then I go to Stellenbosch and I meet this other people, and there's this perception there because they came from a certain place that they are way better than you. Then you go to PwC where it's like, or where it's the cream of the crop. Everybody was sort of top of the class, and so you go on this journey. So you or at least my experience was that I was always questioning myself, well, do I belong, and is everyone looking down on me because I'm not as smart as this, or I don't look this way, I don't speak this way, or um and what I'm finding that it's I can trust myself, just be myself, and and yeah, and part of what helped me to trust myself is I realized that everybody just wants to feel like they're valued. That's certainly what's important to me, and if I just trust myself to make the next person feel valued, um, I would have just told my younger self to just continue to trust that, because I mean there were moments where I'm like, I don't belong here, I should, yeah, but when I look back, I'm like, that's actually, if I just did that, I would have saved myself a lot of pain and heartache. But I mean, none of the pain and heartache was for wasted at all.
I think we all go through that, especially, well, I don't sound like everybody else, but I sound like me, and that's important. That's
Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah,
I, I
true.
don't see any questions coming through. There's a lot of people who are just quite happy to see you on the comments. So nothing, no questions from the audience. Is there
Okay.
any, in terms of last few words? I know you mentioned at the beginning of the show, but maybe talk to us a little bit more about what you wanted to talk to us about earlier.
Yeah. So the I guess the new project that I'm busy with, not a project. So yeah, I've sadly, but also positively, I it's end of December is my last day at UWC. I'll be joining the Milpark team, CA Connected Milpark, from the 1st of Jan as as the senior lecturer in the math team there. Yeah, so that's exciting, but I'm obviously UWC has just been such an amazing journey. Like I could not have imagined this, like you said, the small university in between the two big universities, and the career that I've had, and um, yeah, just how people outside of UWC, came to look for me and to do stuff like I could not have imagined that. So it's been an amazing journey. But I'm also looking forward to my journey at Millpark. Yeah, so that's sort of the new thing, the new big thing that is happening on my side.
Breaking news, for lack of a better word. And the show has been live on YouTube and will be available on the podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel this added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so that you get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Elton, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tooways. I appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat.